right, everyone. Welcome back to the Comeback Team podcast. Today we're going to be starting fundamentally at the root of what do we mean when we talk about comeback. You know, we're going to define comeback. We're going to look at fundamental core values that we're going to be dealing with in how we measure the beginning and the destination of a comeback. We're going to look at this from a variety of perspectives. Bottom line, each of us is going to give you a little spin relative to what we do best. But, you know, to start out with, the comeback is different for every human. You know, we're kind of looking at our community as a group of adults, some of whom have comebacks that are personal, some time management, some it's injury management that led to a change in pattern. At the end of the day, everybody as they sit here is theoretically in the face of some sort of comeback in their lives. And you know, how do you navigate that? Who do you go to? Who do you trust? Does your surgeon communicate with your trainer? Does your trainer communicate with your therapist? Does your therapist communicate with your biomechanist? Who's putting it all together? You know, the best athletes in the world have world-class teams of humans who basically give them that structure, that habit build, and that process. And we see that with our elite athletes. But you know what? We all need that. And so that's a little bit of what we're about here at the Comeback Team, and we're going to try to bring all of our expertise and all of our 100 combined years of human relations to the table as we help you achieve your version of your comeback. So with that being said, you know, we're going to start with weaknesses and strengths. You know, anybody want to chime in here on the value?
Well, I think what's interesting, Coach, is that, you know, one of the biggest challenges that we face as people that are actually wanting to come back, I think, is the fact that when we were younger, let's just say we were a competitive athlete, we always had a structure. Like you said, world-class teams have been put around people to provide that structure for them. So now when they're left to themselves to create this structure, you know, they're not, you know, they don't specialize in structure building. You know, so once you stop having something to train for, I know when I played professional football for a few years, and what I found was that when I decided that I was done playing football, I didn't have that training camp coming up to prepare for. So when I knew I had training camp coming up, you know, if I had to go report to camp in June, I knew that there was a certain build up to that, and these X amount of things needed to get done for me to be prepared to go to camp. But what happens when you take that camp away? You know what I mean? Like, what happens when there's nothing to train for? Either A, you have your own personal self kind of structure that allows you to put those, you know, those marks out in front of you to attack and to go after, even though you don't have a specific camp to train for. Or you just kind of let yourself go and you just kind of fall off into oblivion almost, you know, with no real, without any real benchmarks as to how you're going to make that happen. Chuck, I know for you personally, I know you've probably seen more people from athletes and non-athletes, the combination of the two. I know you've seen people come back to win Cy Youngs, and then you've seen people come back to just get back on their feet and walk again. For you, what do you think is the biggest challenge that people face when they need to identify a way to come back?
Yeah, it's a great question, because as you were talking about getting ready for camp, you're looking at the mental aspect. You're looking at a certain routine. You're looking at a certain discipline. When we break out of those routines, we may not have that mindset to prepare ourselves for what may be next. And let it be if it's somebody who's had an injury or somebody who's just lost their activities of daily living, of daily life. They don't know how at times to come back. So if we can help establish that mindset and know that there is a tomorrow, that we know that if we can get back into what was familiar, that I found to be helpful no matter who we're dealing with.
Right.
Yeah, and that's one of the most obvious things for all of us. I think we talk about this more commonly than anyone, is how people show up to us. You know, how many of your good friends, how many times in your personal life have you woken up and realized, wow, I'm too busy for my own good. I can't work out because I have too many kids, or I have too many responsibilities, or work is too important, or I've got to make more money, or. And, you know, before you know it, you know, we talk about habits in a positive light all the time, but boy, look at the value of those negative habits of not having time, not having discipline, not having, taking care of your personal fitness and health should be as fundamental as brushing your teeth and going to sleep.
Sure.
And yet, how many people actually
and
have
that's
that?
and that's where people end up with you when it's more severe, or they end up in physical therapy, or with any of us, because
Exactly.
they have that change in habit, they have that change in their usual routine where they are able to do what they need to do physically. And then all of a sudden life gets in the way, and career and family become more important at that moment, and people start to forget about themselves.
Yeah.
Often do we hear, I just can't find the time, or I'll find the time to do it. No, you got to make the time.
Got to.
Right.
Just like you said, brushing your teeth, taking a shower every day. You got to make the time to be
Well-
able to commit to, you said it a long time ago, commit to participate.
Right.
And that commitment is fundamental. Just put it down and make the time.
What I give people as an example, when you sit in a plane and they go to the whole routine in the beginning, what they tell you is put your oxygen mask on first before they put it on to your kid.
Absolutely.
And that's basically what people need to change in their mindset. Of course, family and kids and everything else is very important, but if you don't take care of yourself, then you won't be able to take care of your family, your work, and
Right.
every other thing that's important in life.
No, absolutely. And we're going to go back to a lot of stories, and sometimes I think we're going to navigate off to these elite athletes because they're cool stories, and I think everybody likes to relate to them because they look up to these people and their structure and how great they are at what they do. But the take home, the comeback opportunity here is that all of these elite athletes are showing you front and center public views of what it took them to get
Right.
to their best self. And
Sure.
and that is the same exact process that we ask everybody to think about when they're trying to structure, what's a personal goal? It doesn't have to be winning the Super Bowl. It doesn't have to be winning the Masters. Your own personal goal may be as simple as, you want to coach your kid in a sport. You
Or run a
wanna-
5K, or
you want to ski this winter, and should you show up for skiing this winter out of shape, or should you show up prepared? And we're going to have a podcast specifically designed to that preparedness. But
It's funny that you said that because, about 15 years ago or so, I remember training. I started training in Winter Park, Florida, which is, it's closer to where we are currently now. But ironically, the Winter Park community did a lot of skiing in, say, February or so. And one of the best compliments that I ever had was, wow, normally by Wednesday of my ski trip, I have to take the entire day off because my body's so sore.
absolutely.
But what had happened was we just prepared them through general, regular movements that prepared them functionally to be able to go out and ski and not be so sore that they were able to ski all the way throughout the week. And so it comes really down to weaknesses and strengths, identifying them. And, I think that some people know that they have weaknesses and they know that they have strengths. But if we don't identify them appropriately, then we don't know how to attack them. We don't know how to work on them. And I know that's something that, Chuck and I have talked long about, is that, and to Coach's point, we will go back to the elite athletes because I think not only do they demonstrate what having a team around you and what having a structured environment can do for you success-wise, but it also shows that no matter how good or strong your team is, there's still work to do, right?
Well, keep one thing in mind. We also have, what about the person who is not participating in sport per se, but they're doing activities? Or Frank, Robert, you, the three of us 5 years ago at the Human Performance Institute,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
corporate athlete.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
the term that they've coined, the corporate athlete. They've got to prepare for a presentation. They've just got to prepare to do their job at the optimal level every day.
Yeah, and they're on airplanes. They're staying in hotels. They lose their gym opportunity. They lose their structure. They lose their core foundation. And going back to weaknesses and strengths, how many times in our lives, in everyone's life, do you focus on your strength because it's easy? It doesn't quite take as much. And, you guys have taught me in my own personal moments where I've hurt myself in my variety of activities that, look, you got to focus on your weaknesses. If your hips are inflexible, you're putting a lot more strain on your back. Before I had my neck surgery, I was showing up to events with the same energy and attitude and enthusiasm that I did when I worked out 6 days a week, 2 hours a day. Difference was I wasn't doing that. I was just showing up with that mindset. And my weakness was my lack of preparedness. And what happened? I ended up hurting a disc in my neck and needing neck reconstruction. Same thing with my knee, with my broken clavicle. And then, through maturing through that process for the first time in my adult life, I actually realized, wow, I need to focus on my weaknesses, not my strengths.
And we're as strong as our weakest link.
Absolutely.
Because the way I look at things in my profession is we're a series of chain reactions. We're a series of there's certain areas that need to be extremely mobile, and when we don't have that, that's where we start to see some of these injuries. And interestingly, you say about your cervical spine injury. What I find is if we don't correct what was the limitation, what the weakness was, I've seen 3 to 5 years later patients coming back with lumbar spine problems.
Absolutely.
So we have to address our weakest links, but again, it doesn't have to be necessarily in athletics. Even the person who, Frank, how many times do we see people who are sitting at their desk and working at the computer a lot, and they've got back problems, they got shoulder and elbow
Neck problems, right.
neck problems because they're immobile, and we need to just gain that. And that's in corporate life.
And and then when they do want to go do something that's enjoyable, they want to go skiing, they want to go play golf, they want to play tennis, they don't have the general physical preparedness to do it safely without putting themselves at risk. And through this whole process, we talk about the 3 R's, right? We talk about the 3 R's. Coach, tell us about the 3 R's, about that kind of those bullet points that we tend to lean on as it relates to our program here.
We all think about it in terms of fundamental core value: resilience, revitalize, rejuvenate. In our best estimation of who we want to be when we grow up, we all want to be younger, right? Who doesn't want to be their young self? Who doesn't want to be their most potent, most strong, most, undeniable self? But, you start to lose that, and yet you want to be that. So what do? You try harder. Do you prepare harder? Well, therein lies the secret, right? We have opportunities to expand people's understanding first within for those 3 R's. Resilience is key. We're going to get hurt. It doesn't matter. If you have a purposeful, fit, athletic, active life without a sport, but just day-to-day function, you're going to have setbacks. You're going to get hurt. With every setback, you have a comeback. Exactly. Adversity is opportunity. So, and adversity sort of defines what you're lacking, and it gives you the fabric to come back. But the key is to understand why you had your adversity.
And what does that come to? The understanding is now the mental aspect, and you have to have the resiliency in the mental aspect.
Yeah, the first R, resilience. You need to be strong enough to not just sit there and feel sorry for yourself.
Persevere,
structure.
and come back to it.
But you know what? We're in a culture, though, where everyone's so defensive. Everyone's so, don't get hurt. Whatever you do, I'm not going to give you an information. Well, unfortunately, it takes a little bit of calculated risk to navigate these paths. And that's why you guys, your role is so critical to everybody, with or without surgery. Surgery is like the last thing on most people's mind. And very few people actually end up needing surgery. But you have to engage.
And we want to play offense. Coach is a great tennis player. I've played tennis with him before, and he's taken me through my paces. But what I realized about somebody, and this is actually a great lesson, he plays tennis frequently, right?
Yeah.
So he understands what works, what doesn't work, and he's been able to find a level of success and attach himself to a certain style that fits him, that's specific to him, that can allow him to be successful. And what you find in tennis, and what I found in tennis playing against him, was that I was on defense a lot. I was on the defensive side. I found myself just trying to return the ball to the other side and then get it, in play. Whereas I rarely found myself in a position where I can actually be on offense, where I can dictate the tempo. I think with the comeback team, what we want to really be able to help people understand how to do is dictate their own tempo, play offense. We constantly are in this reactive, something happens to us and then we got to recover and this and this. Listen, man, at some point we got to start playing from in front. It's hard to win a tournament when you're always playing from behind.
What's the one common factor, though, that causes that? How often do you play tennis?
That's my point. So there's
How
a
often do you play
consistency there.
tennis?
Yeah, 4 days a week.
Okay,
Yeah.
experience.
Exactly.
Experience, and what we're hoping to do is, from our experiences, impart some of that on the people that
But-
are
but-
listening.
But now that we're talking about tennis as an example, I can't tell you the number of tennis players I know who don't work out for tennis. They consider playing tennis their sport. And my old me knows better than that.
Right.
My 40s me would show up only for tennis. And, you know, the critical thing is train for your sport. You don't train for your sport playing your sport.
Right.
That-
Yeah, I always say.
And
you-
I think that's where a lot of people get injured over time, is because they see
Right.
their young selves in
Right.
their 20s.
Yeah.
They still think they're able to work out at that level and play at that level.
Right.
Yeah.
But now they have to put more, because now you're in your 40s, in your 50s. Now you have to put more time into flexibility, into
Yeah.
training, into strengthening, and work on your strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah, I work with a lot of very high-level golfers from the PGA Tour, LPGA Tour on down, and I always say you can't fix your golf swing with your golf swing, right? You fix your golf swing with your movement, and the club, responds to how the body moves. And
That's
so,
the key right there, pal. Movement. And movement is movement. And movement is universal to sport, universal to
Any
those
activity.
that aren't in sport and just doing activities
Right.
around their home.
Right.
We have to start doing some movement prep as we get older. It gets
Right.
even more challenging.
Sure.
But even doing movements or activities around the house, if people are cleaning out their garage or working in a warehouse, they have to have certain movements.
Yeah.
And those movements are no different than your PGA or LPGA players or any other sport.
Right.
And we have to appreciate movement rather than just strength.
And when we can spark that flame in people to help them start to initiate the thought process of moving better, there's that revitalization, isn't there, Coach? Like we're
Absolutely.
revitalizing not just the physical body, but revitalizing the spirit. Because the spirit to move, as soon as you get a small victory, as soon as you get through one workout or one movement session, and your body starts to feel what it feels like to move appropriately
You
again.
start to feel better.
Yeah, and I know as a physical therapist,
Yeah.
Frank, I know you see that all the time. You see somebody, and what it does more than anything is give people confidence that they actually can do something that
Exactly.
they were unsure about before.
Well,
And that's
it's
the most important part in the start of a rehab program, is get that
Small
confidence in
wins,
your
right?
body, have a little bit of a win, and just start building on that.
And it's interesting you bring that up because just a couple of days ago, a patient from Masson Spine Institute and a patient of yours came in and was evaluated, still having some what he thought was back pain, but it was myofascial tightness. It was tightness in the hips. It was
Yeah.
tightness in his calves, and just did some basic movements that he could do at home, and he went out feeling and moving vastly different than when he came in. It
And
was
the
just
confidence,
basic stuff.
I'm
And
sure,
it's-
skyrocketed.
Well, and what's interesting about that, he had said that he has difficulty maintaining his program because he just isn't committed.
Right.
He said he's coming back this coming week, and he wants to start getting committed. And we talked about making the time.
Well, we've talked about resilience. We've talked about revitalize. The last thing, rejuvenate, right? Well, if you look at rejuvenate, does that really have anything to do with your chronological age? So as I've grown older and as I see people 70s, 80s, 90s, I talk health age. I don't talk chronological age. You know, I think there's this
Biological age.
current massive awareness of ageism and how we tend to discriminate against people's age group. At the end of the day, it really isn't about how old you are. It's about what's your state of preparedness,
How
what's your
active
state
you
of
are.
health, what's your state of fitness. And, you know, and something as severe as neurosurgical spine surgery, you really highlight that. People that are in great health age, they can be 85. But they do amazing, and they succeed with Frank, and they get back to you guys, and they still have goals. I have one guy over in the Villages who basically does Ironman triathlons, and he's in his 70s. It's incredible,
amazing.
you know, and he's had a few comebacks of his own.
Let's reverse this, though, for just a moment. How many of your patients have come in that are, quote, young,
Yeah.
but their health age is 20, 30 years older than what they should be?
Right. So Rejuvenate really speaks not to your chronological age and not to you being your 18-year-old version of yourself, but to being your best next year version of yourself. And I tell you, the power and the confidence and the emotional substance that you get when you reachieve that is priceless. And I think, you know, as we've done this organically ourselves over the years, before we've gotten to this point of presentation, I'm so much more grounded in my own personal space. I used to put on a good show, now it's kind of just fundamental. And I think that's the opportunity so many people have, and they don't even realize it. And so, it's going to be a core value for us.
Yeah, so what the comeback really means, taking these 3 R's into consideration is really just merging and bridging the gap and a very seamless transition between the medical world and the fitness world. And you're going to enter this program and on one side of the continuum or the other, but you're never going to, if you come in on the biomechanics side and then move quickly to the performance side with me, doesn't mean that you're out of touch with what's happening with coaching with Frank. Our goal is to make sure we create a seamless process that helps leverage the medical side to enhance performance, but also re-engage a performance side to set goals and standards for us for the medical side. And I think that we already naturally do that well, which is why we're all sitting here today. But I think that the systematic approach that we'll help to provide is really an awesome introduction if you don't have one. Right. A lot of people, they have the enthusiasm, they're ready to get it done, but they don't know where to start.
One of the things is, to your point, is expectations.
Yes.
And it goes back to, I want to drive that point home of movement.
Right.
First, for those that have been inactive or have some desire for a comeback, it's understanding the movement. Mm-hmm. And with our principles and with our process that we're laying out, we want to get people to move and moving in the right way,
right,
not necessarily a compensatory way.
Right.
Right.
We get them moving in the what I call from the big movement rocks, which we'll explore at some point. But you get the mobility in the foot and ankle and the hips and through the ribs, the thoracic spine, they're going to move so much more efficiently.
And feel so much better.
And feel so much better.
Well, one of the organic things that I think ultimately the comeback team is at the most fundamental level about is this personalized team approach. We're going to keep coming back to that over and over and over again. When you look at medical fitness, I think it's highlighted at the highest level because most communities, particularly in North America, where it's so competitive, and a trainer is competing with a physical therapist who's competing with a private biomechanist who, God knows, the surgeon, nobody wants to let the surgeon get a hand out. The reality is most people in any community in this country and worldwide need a team. I'm a fraction of who I want to be without you guys, and vice versa. And if you look at it from our average community member, they need a team. They need a group of people. And so an opportunity that we have is to change the thinking in communities around this globe and make sure that we're offering teams to people of well thought out, intelligent plans for their best self forward. And maybe someone does end up needing surgery. Maybe you guys are successful and they don't. But at the end of the day, it's about the thoughtfulness, the strategy, the plan, and the quality of the teamwork.
What comes to mind to me based on what you just said, and you said the trainer, that trainer needs to have a multidisciplinary approach. That trainer needs to have, that trainer can be the triage to either sports performance or physical therapy or massage therapy or nutrition, have a cadre of physicians that they can refer to. If they don't, that trainer is an island unto themselves, and that's where they have to understand being part of a team isn't going to take away from the trainer. Being part of the team adds to their credibility.
Absolutely. It makes us all stronger.
It makes everybody stronger, but what will happen is from each other discipline, that's a referral source.
Right.
So indirectly, being part of that team is going to build their business individually and help the client or the patient collectively.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, this is our Comeback Team podcast. We're building community. We are going to be inspired by this community. Come visit us on social media. We intend to provide a lot of content, and we're going to intend to give you the structure, the fabric, the discipline, and ultimately the roadmap to your best self forward.